Twisters was awesome, man. I'm glad you all survived it. Thank you for talking with me about it. So I live in Nashville, and in March of 2020, a tornado went like a quarter mile past my house, and it was pretty scary. I didn't know what was happening at the time, but I walked outside and I saw like, whoa, everything. It's like a movie set out here. That was my thought. This looks like a movie set. All the destruction, and people walking around with their pets and figuring it out and trying to help each other. You guys were on the movie set version of that. So I'd love to hear about the details you noticed on those sets that you're like, wow, this is like some real crazy looking destruction. These are things I wouldn't have thought about until you were in it.
I'll just say from one of the most impressive days that I think I saw on a set in terms of a production, a production build sort of aspect, in terms of the design, is they recreated an entire neighborhood, but there's a huge tornado that rips through this town.
Right.
And it like severs houses in half, which is what happens. These houses, some things you see that are absolutely untouched, which just happens in real life, and then some are destroyed. Sometimes things are severed, but they built an entire house that really was like, you walked through these homes and there was like the pictures and the photos and the real life that was happening inside that house before that tornado. It's just like that level of detail is what makes this movie like so incredible, because you just don't see that.
Like a doll on a branch, like just little crazy, wild details, like Glenn is talking about. I mean, like it was.
Yeah, and even we had a lot of background actors and extras who were members of the Red Cross, who obviously dealt with real destruction too. So I think the whole thing felt very authentic, and sobering actually when we walked through those sets.
It is sobering.
Yeah, and I appreciate that you guys made it. It made the movie feel more immersive. It was really cool. And when you're making a sequel to a popular classic like Twister, I imagine when you tell your friends, when you think about it yourself, there's probably something that comes to mind. You're like, okay, well, in addition to tornadoes, here's the things that people want to see, people think about when they think of the first Twister movie. What are those things for you, and what were people kind of coming to you saying, like, oh, is there going to be a flying cow? Like, what was that thing?
A lot of that.
A lot of the flying cow. A lot of asking about just I guess things that we were thinking about as far as what just.
Yeah, like what did you think about? What did people who you told you were doing this movie come to you and say, oh, are you guys going to do this? This has to be there.
Yeah, flying cows. They're like, do you guys have any, anything that you kind of alluding to the first movie? We got the Dorothy, Bill Paxton's son, God rest his soul. His son James was blessed us with a cameo in the film. So, it was cool. Like just these little nuggets of and pieces of the spirit of the first film. Yeah,
of course. Yeah,
and also like real footage of real tornadoes, which we have. I think we had a B-roll crew who came and filmed like actual tornado and actual extreme weather, and they did that in the original. They a lot of it was they filmed a lot of real tornadoes, didn't they?
Well, Industrial Light and Magic, which did a lot of the post or all the post in this movie, they took real footage. I mean, obviously, in terms of this is sort of the next chapter of Twister, and we have to like kind of raise the bar on every level. They took, with modern technology, with these cameras, you can get closer and closer and closer, but they used all real reference footage from these tornadoes. So, I mean, what you're seeing on screen is the most real depiction of a tornado ever seen on the theatrical screen.
Sure.
Cool.
And actually, it's so real, it looks, you can't believe it.
Yeah.
Like what it really looks like.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Your two characters bond over a love of tornadoes, which feels like such an uncommon thing to have an affinity for. What is kind of the strangest or maybe most like unique thing you've ever bonded with a person over?
I mean, I'll tell you, in terms of the specificity of this relationship, there's a documentary called Fire of Love that Daisy and I both watched, which is really about the specificity of this couple that loves volcanoes and just wants to get closer and closer to volcanoes.
It's an amazing documentary.
Yeah. He's a French volcanologist. So if you want to get a sense of like, I think that was a really interesting jumping off point for Daisy and I to kind of talk about.
Yeah, of like what it is to be passionate about this thing that's quite like, for a lot of people, like hard to understand. Like, why would you want to be that close to something this sort of dangerous and volatile? But it's the same with chasing. I mean, I feel like I bonded with a lot of chasers over, I mean, as a Brit, we love the weather. We talk about the weather all the time, even though the weather is the same. It's just consistently bad. But yeah, so I bonded with a lot of storm chasers about weather.
Yeah, and I feel like you have great chemistry with everybody you're on screen with. And dude, you have this, there's like this Glenn Powell look that makes the character you're acting opposite and the audience watching kind of melt. Can you bestow me the trick? How do you do it, man?
I mean, we're gonna set this hay bale on fire, man. Oh shit!
Do the rain grimace.
What? The rain grimace?
There it is. That was it. That's exactly what.
No, I gotta say, I mean, I've had the benefit of some, acting with some really, really wonderful people. And this cast is like truly, I cannot imagine a better group of people that we could have been in Oklahoma with in this one.
It seemed like you guys had a great time.
Yeah.
I'm happy for it. It was an awesome movie. Thank you so much for talking with me about it, guys. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Twisters was awesome, man. I'm glad you guys survived. It's fun to talk with everybody about it today. In March of 2020, I live in Nashville. A tornado passed by my house about a quarter mile away. I didn't even know what was happening at the time, but after it passed, I went down there. I saw the destruction, and the thing that stood out to me was like people walking with their pets. I was like, this is crazy. And I thought to myself, I feel like I'm on a movie set because I've never seen anything like this. And on the Twister set, you had that destruction, you had those moments. I loved you about those sets when you saw that kind of destructed world after a tornado plows through. What kind of stood out to you and made you feel like, oh wow, we're really in this world, this is what we're doing?
I mean, it looked horrible, and so many, growing up where there are a bunch of tornadoes and hurricanes and all of that, and seeing what that destruction does to, having your own family members in it, just having, when we had Katrina and people coming to our school from New Orleans and all that, it's like, it's so real, and you get in awe of nature. And I remember standing outside, inside the house, but looking out the window and seeing the tornadoes go by or watching the weather, and you kind of are getting hype. It's kind of fun. I remember running home, hearing the sirens, but you also then, it's a reminder of like, yeah, just because it missed your house, thank God, but 2 streets over, it's destroyed. Yeah. And so it just made it like that reminder of that seriousness too, and why people chase storms in the first place is to then be able to help.
Yeah, like where the actual heart of the story is, like they kind of craft that with the settings that we were in. We were in an actual neighborhood where a tornado hit, and the buildings around us weren't set pieces, like they were just actual buildings that got destroyed by a tornado and never got fixed. And because there's people that lived in that neighborhood, and we were talking, and I was like, oh yeah, it's crazy the set that they built. And they're like, oh, well, they added the stuff in the street, but like those buildings were actually got hit by a tornado and it just missed my house.
Yeah.
But they're like, they haven't been able to fix it up yet, but it's been there for a while. So it's crazy that we were actually shooting in the heartland of where tornadoes actually occur.
That's crazy. It's cool to see that destruction led to something being used for something like this, and hopefully everybody who was there is okay.
Sure.
But also, I would love to hear about the experience of when they create the tornado moment on set. Like, how much are you actually like getting pelted with hail and rain and debris? Like, is there ever a moment where you are actually a little bit like, wow, this is pushing it? Like, how far are we going here?
I feel like the majority of the time, because we were on location a lot, so like, sometimes our wind was a little too strong. I was like, y'all, I can't physically
Sasha
move.
got blown away.
Yeah, I legit I was like trying to go right, but y'all sending me left. So that was a little intense. But I feel like maybe Anthony, Glenn, and Daisy dealing with the big rush of the water. They probably was like a crazy little world. But
They got smacked around more than me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a little diva or something, because I was just like, man, these pellets are hitting my eyes, guys.
My lashes.
I can't stand in this forever. No, it was fun though to be kind of just feel like you're in the mix of it all. Actually, I enjoyed it. There's never a time of really complaining. I think the only time where I was like, all right, this is a rough day is when it was November and we're pretending it's a summer movie, so I'm wearing like cutoff sleeves and shorts, and I'm like, guys, it is 20 or 30 degrees right now.
Yeah,
it's
it was
cold.
freezing.
So that was the only tough day, but all the other stuff I appreciate. Where I'm like, oh yeah, please, like controlled chaos is what I've been saying this whole run. So.
Yeah. What a cool experience it must have been. And there's the moments like you just mentioned where you kind of almost fly away a little bit. I won't say what happens. I will let people see, but it's in the trailer, that moment where Glenn reaches out and grabs. When people were flying away on set, when that kind of effect was being added, it seems like it was pretty practical. What was that like? Were you like rigged to something? Were people really getting yanked away from the co-stars?
So I was like attached to like a harness, and then they essentially all the chairs, like you'd see as the days go or the hours would go by, slowly things would be shoved out. But it was cool. I got to hang on, and they call action, and then it's just slide out and hope to God that I actually catch Glenn's hand, because I messed up one time. I flew.
Ended up on the stage.
Really? I ended up on the stage because I
Yeah.
just forgot to grab his hand. I was just like, wee.
Oh, so like if you guys weren't really holding each other, that thing was taking you.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, they had to catch me.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, that's really cool. That's a cool experience. If you guys had a YouTube channel of your own where you were storm chasers, what would you name it?
What would I name it?
Yo, what would you name it?
Fly with me.
Fly with me. Oh, dang. I mean, what, tornado wranglers. I don't know.
Wee.
Dizzy Dummies. Dizzy Dummies.
There you
go.
What's up?
Oh,
Dizzy
That's
Dummies
pretty
is
fire.
hard.
I like that.
I like that too. Yeah.
Well,
That's a
thank you
band
so
name.
much for hanging with me and talking about Twisters. Congrats on being a part of it. Y'all were awesome, and it was
Thank
fun to
you.
watch. Thank you.
Appreciate
B Money
it.
Brandon, my man.
That's us.
Yeah, cheers.